hearing is different than imagining. Rebecca started thinking about this. Everything that she could now imagine but could not hear. I sleep with the bedroom window open because I enjoy listening to what goes on during the night. She couldn't sleep. She was busy imagining. So she got up, went to the couch, was up for hours reading the book, 1 Square Inch of Silence. And then she came back. I knew she was different. I reached over as she was about to speak, grabbed my handheld digital recorder, and pushed record. Before I push play, remember, please, that Rebecca is deaf. Her words are not easy to understand, but they are words for everyone, hearing or not.
So I can't sleep because I keep wondering, you've got your window open, right? I keep wondering what's out there. I always assumed nothing.
Always something.
And all of those sounds that you describe in your book, the implant never going to be able to do that. It's not going to be able to detect that kind of subtlety. It's too oriented towards speech, as you mentioned about hearing aids. And it only has 22 electrodes. So there's a lot of space in between the frequencies. I've been in the whole rainforest many times, and all I heard was that low frequency, noise of the rain coming down. I had no idea it was singing a song. Rivers are my favorite thing in the whole wide world. The Dungeness River is magical to me. And it was just a loud crashing roar. It was magical to me because of the way it looked, not the way it sounded. It's silly. I'm really sad right now. I guess I have to go through this, huh? Gosh, your book is beautiful. You know something? This is the first time in my 43 years that I've felt sad about my hearing impairment. I've had times where I felt mad or frustrated. Those two happen, on a somewhat regular basis. Less and less as I get older because I'm just resigned to it. But I've never felt sad about it before. Not once. Because I didn't know what I was missing. You talk about silence. And in your silence, there's everything in there. And in my silence, there's nothing in there.
Audiologists, scientists who study human hearing and develop implements and other things to help Rebecca access the hearing world, have a common belief that the human ear evolved to hear the human voice, which might be true. And we'll look into that in a moment. But I thought, if that is true, then that makes us the first species on planet Earth to have evolved so separate from the natural world and with so much self-importance. So I asked this man, Randy Borman, while we were speaking at a TEDx event down in Manaus at the Conference on Quality of Life for All Beings. Randy, while he is Caucasian, was raised in the Kofan tribe, a tribe so remote in the Amazon of Ecuador that you can walk 1,200 miles in the wrong direction and not cross a road or meet a village. He has a Kofan wife, 4 Kofan sons. So I said, hey, Randy, what do you think? Did the human ear evolve to hear the human voice? He goes, hard to believe. Why would it evolve for something we do so little? Yeah, we listen to the forest to find food and warn us of danger. But Randy, like audiologists, we make our assumptions, important ones, by the way we grow up. And this is my son in the middle talking to his friends, just pretty much like I grew up, having so much self-importance. But let's take a fresh look at human hearing. And the important thing, the only important thing here to notice is that in the range of human hearing on these equal loudness contours is that those are not straight lines. The ear is tuned. In fact, it's super sensitive to the frequencies that are highlighted there between 2.5 and 5 kilohertz, the resonant frequencies of the auditory canal. And it is important for speech intelligibility. When I say speech, that falls into that range. And so it allows us to talk about each other and what I'm talking about now using as many words as we seem to be able to invent. But what if this is a golden slipper that is going to match something in our ancestors' world, something in nature that would explain how they got a distinct survival advantage? And indeed, right away, there's a perfect fit. This is a willy wagtail singing on the Australian outback for its mate. And let's listen to what Willie has to tell us. Now I hear a couple things. One is that Willie isn't just going, I'm a male, here I am, any females out there looking for somebody to nest up with. No, Willie is passionately expressing something he feels. And then the other part of the message is that while he does that, he announces his location to all potential predators. The message that I get from Willie is that love and risk are inseparable. Thank you, Willie. But now on to the larger question for our ancestors. Okay, what kind of survival advantage would it have for our ancestors to be able to hear faint birdsong? So imagine now, remember 35,000 years ago as a population we're basically genetically unchanged. Imagine yourself 35,000 years ago and your nomadic tribe has run low on natural resources. It's not hard to imagine. You need to go find a place with more wood, more food, everything you need. And so we pack up, we move on. And in our search for a new homeland, we reach a mountain ridgetop. And we have a choice between two valleys. This is one choice. Let's listen carefully, could determine whether we perish or prosper. No information. But then we turn, and the other valley, we hear birdsong. Where are we going to go? And if you live close to the land, if the birds are singing, there's food, there's water, and an extended favorable growing season long enough to raise the young off the nest. Birdsong is the primary indicator of habitats prosperous for humans. All animals hear. Isn't that amazing? Not all animals have the ability to see in the bottom of the caves, bottom of the oceans, back of the caves. They're blind species. But all higher vertebrates have the ability to hear because events create sound, send out vibrations, and it's the only way you're going to stay tuned to current events. And it's so important that even while eyelids evolved, we close our eyes to go to sleep at night. Not once, even in the fossil record, do we find coverings of the ear. Earlids never evolved. It would be far too dangerous. While all animals hear, not all listen, and those that don't are eaten by those that do. So, you might say now is a great time to ask yourself how you can become a true listener. And by the way, I'm a personal believer that anybody that in this room that thinks they're a good listener, that's probably what's keeping you from being a good listener, right? So, the one recommendation that I give to everybody is to remind them that we are born listeners. That if you can simply find a preschooler, and these are my two children before they went to school, Abby on the left and Oogie on the right, they haven't been taught how to focus their attention, screen out. That process is controlled impairment. That's not listening. Listening is treating all sounds with equal value. And that's what preschoolers do. Hoist them onto your shoulder and go for a night walk. They'll tell you anything, everything you need to know about becoming a better listener. And you know what? It's not even about sound. Rebecca told us that. It's about place. So we're going to do a little experiment here. We're going to go to a place, the Mississippi Valley, not far from where Mark Twain grew up. And I'm going to ask you not to listen to the sound, but listen to the place. All right? Listen to the place. The dawn course takes about 15 minutes. We don't have that. So we're going to jump in and out, beginning with onset. So let's jump ahead just about 3 minutes. It's already picking up steam. And now we'll jump ahead 7 minutes. And it's really rocking and rolling. Okay. But it's even going to get busier than this. And if you're still listening to sound, it's just going to sound like a bunch of noise. What I want you to do, take it all in with equal importance. Close your eyes. Since that recording was made in 1990, 25% of songbirds are in decline. Songbirds that depend upon a clean acoustic environment in order to communicate. And this is a graph showing all the frequencies and their amounts in the dawn chorus that we just heard, and the highlighted area is our peak sensitivity. In the 1800s, back before all the noise pollution, there were listening writers writing beautiful sonic descriptions of the world for listening readers. And the most famous of these is Mark Twain. But if you read a biography today about Mark Twain, nothing, zip. No comment about how Mark Twain timed the thunderstorms in the valley to mark the places, how his sonic treatment of the characters to work with the mood and the realism that he developed. We have to go to Mark Twain's autobiography to learn that he couldn't remain in a room with a ticking clock. And not only that, he wouldn't give a reading, of which he gave readings around the world, unless the programs were printed on noiseless paper, which meant a high cloth content. And that was because Mark Twain reserves silence as the think tank of the soul. And it's there, in the silence of the Mississippi River, that he allows Huck Finn to make that leap from child to free-thinking adult. For Tom, it happens in the back of the cave. Now I'll read to you a description of dawn on the Mississippi River out of chapter 19, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Not a sound anywheres. Perfectly still. Just like the whole world was asleep, only sometimes the bullfrogs, maybe. Sometimes you could hear a sweep squeaking or jumbled up voices. It was so still and sounds come so far. Then the nice breeze springs up and comes fanning you from over there, so cool and fresh and sweet to smell on account of the woods and the flowers. But sometimes not that way, because they've left dead fish laying around, gars and such, and they do get pretty rank. And next you've got the full day and everything smiling in the sun and the songbirds just going it. Well, we know what songbirds just going it is like. What are our kids going to write about? We've just begun to eavesdrop in on the conversations of other species. These are humpback whales off the Kona coast. And here's another male. This is of the Pacific wren, close to my home. But I don't get this. I know this creature. These are smart fellows. They're great survivors, and they sing year-round in the rainforest near my home in Olympic National Park. So I was thinking about this in the quiet of the park, wondering about what is it to communicate, and I realized I speak in breath-long sentences. Maybe the Pacific wren does too. So I went back to the studio and I took that recording and slowed it down so the Pacific wren's breath matched my breath, and this is what we get. no matter how old we are. We are still our ancestors. And we still have these mountain ridge tops that we reach. The choices are different, the valleys are different. The Valley of Silence has now become our urban centers. And our ears tell us that those 5,000 medical research articles that document the deleterious effects of noise on human health below that which causes hearing loss are true. The cities are cultural places, people that we love. And the other valley are our parks. Our parks, that if we defend from noise pollution, we can become true listeners again. And when we're true listeners to nature, we're true listeners to ourselves. We don't know how we know, but we know. It's Veritas. And we can go back and have our conversations with our families and our business associates and work in the city to make cities worthwhile listening to. Ladies and gentlemen, there is still not one place on planet Earth off limits to noise pollution. The final message, before I turn the podium back over to Mike, comes from the earth itself. And the earth is speaking, the earth is actually singing, and has been since the beginning of time at sunrise, lifting off this acoustic shadow. We take one 24-hour cycle and reduce it to a little over a minute, starting on the Australian outback, then going through Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas.
Gordon, we heard you. Thank you so much. What a joy. What a real adventure, a treat to listen, to really listen. Thank you. And thank all of our sponsors, the board members, and thank all of you for coming tonight. I think we all received a wonderful evening. We appreciate your support of the Parks and Trail Council of Minnesota. We look forward to you coming back again next year. But until then, hopefully running into you on the trails in our beautiful parks. Let's get out there and listen. Thank you.
Good.